Action from both sides of the aisle pouring into the bombshell developments. And a big question tonight, what does it mean for Trump's campaign moving forward? Chris Welch continues our team coverage live in the newsroom with more on that part of the story. Chris.
Yeah, Steve, in the short term, this could actually help him secure the nomination. Now, long term, that may not be the case. But what's interesting on some of the responses we're seeing so far, even some of those who have come to Trump's defense on legal issues in the past are acknowledging that this indictment is serious.
It is an extremely damning indictment. This is not an indictment that you can dismiss.
Reaction following the news of Donald Trump's 37-count indictment is generally falling into two camps. The first, Democrats and a slow and steady trickle of Republicans who believe that the indictment is one that should be taken seriously.
The prosecution of former President Donald Trump sends a message that no one, not even a former president, is above the law.
What is now starting to come out is some really explosive and damning evidence.
And Republican Senator Mitt Romney writing in a statement this morning that the DOJ appears to have afforded Trump, quote, the time and opportunity to avoid charges that would not generally have been afforded to others. He goes on, quote, Mr. Trump brought these charges upon himself by not only taking classified documents, but by refusing to simply return them when given numerous opportunities to do so. Mike Pence, Trump's former vice president and current opponent for the 2024 Republican nomination, called the matter very serious.
I had hoped that the DOJ would see its way clear not to move forward here. But let me be very clear. No one is above the law.
Those who fall into the second camp, predominantly the tried and true defenders of Donald Trump.
When you think about what they're trying to indict President Trump on, you've got a sitting president right now in the exact same situation. You have a former First Lady, Senator, Secretary of State that had the same situation that nothing was done to her.
But the key difference between Trump and Biden's situations, says political analyst David Birdsell, Trump refused to cooperate.
So there is a progressive pattern of behavior that became more and more obstructive and more plainly inaccurate, if not frankly dishonest, with regard to the operations of the government.
As to whether the indictment helps or hurts Trump's primary campaign,
I think, in fact, this probably makes it slightly more likely that he becomes the Republican nominee.
So why does David Birdsell think that? Well, he says this will no doubt gin up excitement within Trump's core base. He also expects to see exactly what we saw after the indictment of Donald Trump here in New York, when he got a massive boost in fundraising. But as to a general election win, because of the independents that this might turn off, it could be a tougher uphill climb come November of 2024. Steve, back to you.
Very well, all right. Thanks, Chris. And coming